Hello, well, church. How you doing? This is Minister Kevin, and I hope you guys are having a great day. Hope you guys are enjoying this beautiful day. And so for today, I will be doing Teen Church. I just have a couple of verses I want to read to you guys. I'm not going to be before you long. Um, I have 82 to about I think 16, 17 verses I want to read and just break it down. And today I want to talk about faith and endurance. And if I created a title for today's message is also called "Practice Makes Perfect." And the reason why I came up with this title in regards to faith and endurance is I want to read the scriptures, but I want to compare it to when an athlete is practicing. And so I'm going to do a lot of comparison. You as just take it as you're part of a team. Just take football. You're part of a team, and your coach is doing things. It's certain. They're trying to groom you. They're trying to evolve you. They're trying to mold you. And I want to compare that with faith and endurance. I know a lot of young people that I talk to in the church. They're into sports. Some of them play sports. So I'm pretty sure some of you are used to or even know about the whole method of practicing, the whole method of teamwork and practicing with your team and practicing with your coach. So I hope that you guys will be able to put the connection between the two, and I'm going to explain it as well. Today, I will be reading a couple of verses from James chapter 1, and I will be reading verses 2 through 18. Now, there's a lot of verses, and it will not fit in the section on the bottom, so I'm going to read them, but I'm going to read them in sections. So just bear with me as I go, as I split it up a little bit. I want to start with verses 2 through 4, and it reads, "Dear brothers and sisters, when trouble," I'm reading from the New Living Translation version also. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when trouble of any kind comes your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing." So we're talking about endurance. We're talking about what happens when you are tested. And I know, especially as young people, sometimes we feel like things aren't fair. Certain things happen, and things aren't fair. They're not. And certain things happen in our lives, and we feel like we're constantly being tested. We're constantly being pushed. We're constantly being questioned. We're constantly, going through things, and it's just like, God, like, why is this happening to me? But the verse says, when trouble comes your way, consider it an opportunity of great joy. Why would you consider trouble great joy? It's because you know there is growth to happen. Whenever you go through something, whenever something is affecting you, is pushing you, is causing pressure on you, when you make it through, you're different than the person you was before you entered that tribulation, before you entered that hard time. And it's just like practice. Sometimes, when you join a team, no matter what position it is, whether it's quarterback, lineback, wide receiver, any team on the football, you have to go through training. And that training is never going to be easy. Let's say we all know if the training was easy, you wouldn't be effective, because the person who you are before you start the training, before you start the practice, cannot be the same person who you are after. So when your coach gives you things, he gives you things to put pressure on you to train you. He gave you things to put pressure on you to build you up. And it's the same way with God. When God sees you going through things, he lets you go through it so that you could grow, because he has something planned for you, but he needs to be more developed than you are now. It's the same thing with practice. You must be prepared for what's to come. Your training, your practice is for the real game. What I'm saying? Your training, your practice is for things to come. It's a future to come. So your growth is the same thing. Your growth right now, your development right now is for what's to come in the future. God has plans for you. So if you find yourself always in trouble, you find yourself always under pressure, just remember that it's for a reason. You know what I'm saying? God is doing something in you because he sees something in you and he knows what's going to come in the future. You have to practice. You have to be prepared. You have to know your verses, just like how in football teams, you have to know their routes. They have to know their plays. You have to know, you have to be able to fall back on your faith. You have to be able to trust yourself, trust your faith, trust the people around you and your teammates. This is all part of growing up and developing you for what's to come. And that's part of endurance. That's part of being of endurance means, that you have the strength to keep going, the long run, the long race, the long play, the long game. It's not just, I can make it for just today only. No, I could do today, I could do next week, I could do next year, I could do centuries from now. Endurance is what keeps you going. You have to be able to grow to have endurance. And so we moved on to the next verses. I'm starting at verse 5. It says, if you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. But when you ask him, be sure that your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person who with divided loyalty is as unsettling as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. Such people should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in everything they do. Speaking back to the coach and the football team, that's the comparison we're making for today. Never be scared to approach your coach with questions, right? If you want to understand a route, you want to understand a play, you want to understand why you are doing this, you want to understand the purpose, you should always be able to openly go to your coach and ask him, Coach, okay, what's next? Coach, what am I doing? God is saying the same thing. Sometimes we're so hard on ourselves. We expect us to remember everything. We expect us to know everything. Oh, I should have known that verse. Or I should have known the scripture. I should have known the story. I should have known the lesson. I should have known better. But sometimes it's not all on us. God is saying that it's not all on you. The wisdom that you lack is okay because I have all the wisdom. I just need you to come to me. Do not try to do everything alone. Do not try to do things without coming to me. If you need wisdom, even if I have to tell you 2, 3, 4, or 5 times, it says he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. He wants you to ask. He wants you to have questions. He wants you to come to him. Sometimes, we always look at ourselves or even as other people, oh, they should have known this. No, sometimes I have to ask again over and over again, or sometimes you just forget. You know what I'm saying? But what I like, it says that, but when you ask him, be sure your faith is in God alone. A teammate who doesn't trust their coach only hinders the rest of the team. I say that because when you ask God something, sometimes he'll give you an answer that it may not be what you expected. And you have to be okay with that. You have to have faith to say, you know what, God, that's not what I thought. That's not what I expected. That's not actually what I wanted to hear, but I'm going to have faith. Because the thing is, it's like let's go back to the football team. Imagine your coach gives you a route. He gives you a play. And, the quarterback sees the play. But in the middle of the play, he thinks, nah, I don't agree with this play. So he changes the play. He doesn't tell anybody else. He just changes the play and he throws a ball somewhere expecting somebody to be there. And nobody said to catch the ball. A teammate who doesn't trust the coach only hinders the rest of the team. And you're only hindering yourself because then you make no progress. The coach knows what needs to be done. He knows the place. Yes, there might be an audible somewhere, the coach will adjust for that. But at the same time, it's the same thing with God. God knows what you need. He knows the answers to your questions. He knows the answers to your prayers. But sometimes we try to do things ourselves. We think we know better, or we think we can handle it on our own. And so you don't have faith not only in God, but in his answers that he gives you. So it says that be sure your faith is in God alone. Do not waver, for a person who is divided in loyalty is as unsettling as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. A wave in the sea moves whichever way the wind blows. It has no set direction, which means it has no destination. It could go in circles for days and go in circles for hours. It wouldn't care because it's wherever the wind blows. We don't operate like that. God has us here for a reason. We don't just go wherever the wind blows, which means that we have a starting point and we have an end point. We have a beginning and we have a destination. The wind doesn't control us. Actually, the verse says that we have the power to stop the winds. We control the winds. So you have to determine which are you going to be. Are you going to be the person who is controlled by the wind or the person who controls the wind? Because God has given us a power too, but you have to have faith in God. Moving on to verse 9. All right. Verse 9, it says, believers who are poor have something to boast about, for God has honored them, and those who are rich should boast that God has humbled them. They will fade away like a little flower in the field. The hot sun rises and the grass withers. The little flower droops and falls, and its beauty fades away. In the same way, the rich will fade away with all of their achievements. It doesn't matter how you are when you come to the team. It doesn't matter who you think you are when you come to the team. I'm talking about football now, but I'm also comparing it. The coach should still treat you the same, right? It doesn't matter you came from the west side or the east side of town. It doesn't matter how much money you thought you had before you joined the team. Once you're on the team, once you put on that uniform, once you enter the field, you're just like every other player. You have a role, but it's your role to play, and it's just as important as everybody else. God doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to God what you or who you were before you came to Him. That's what this verse saying. That's saying that the rich and the poor, they both could also give praise to God for different things, but because they both could still give praise to God. It doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are. It doesn't matter what you have and what you don't have. God will still treat you the same, because God still has a destination for you. He still has a plan for you. Sometimes we base our usefulness based on what we think we have, based on how important we think we are to society. God says, no, I know how important you are. You don't have to prove to me that you're important. I'm trying to prove to you how invaluable you are. So it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter what you don't have. When you come to the team, you're just as important as everybody else. The quarterback may think he's the most important person in the team, but let's be honest, that wide receiver isn't in position. It doesn't matter how good the quarterback is. Nobody's going to catch the ball. It doesn't matter how good the quarterback is if the defensive linemen don't do their job. It doesn't matter how good the quarterback is if the team doesn't work together. It doesn't matter what you bring before you enter the team. Everybody is just as important. God has a plan for everyone. God will bless you regardless of what you have and what you don't have. His end goal is the same for all of us, and that is victory. Verses 12 through 15, and I'm almost done. It says, God bless those who patiently ignore tests and temptation. Afterward, they will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love Him. And remember, when you are being tempted, do not say, God is tempting me. God is never tempted to do wrong, and He has never tempted anyone else. Temptations come from your own desire, which entices us and drags us away. These desire gives birth to sinful actions. And when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. Remember everything that you're doing this for. In football, it's to get to the playoffs. It's to get the trophy at the end. But in our walk, it's to have eternal peace. It's to have eternal happiness. It's to please God. It's to spread His word, spread His gospel. Always remember why we're doing this, because sometimes we get caught up. We think we're doing it for fame. We think we're doing it for glory. We have to patiently endure the tests and temptations. Patiently endure the things that are going on now, because the end game will be worth it. And remember that when you are tempted, do not say, God's tempting me. A player, say a player is given, he knows a big game's coming up. He got about 4 weeks, and he's practicing, he's training, he's doing everything the coach says. However, 2 weeks before the game, he decides to no longer eat healthy. He decides to skimp on his training because, he feels overconfident, he or she. And then they decide to, just do things their own way. And then when it comes time to play the game, this person can no longer run it as good as they used to. They can no longer, defend and be as strong as they needed to be for the position. And so they sit there and they try to blame the coach. And the coach was like, I did what I was supposed to do. I gave you the blueprint. I gave you the direction. I gave you the answers. It was up to you to keep up with it. Because you could say as much as you want, the coach did a bad job. But if the team doesn't practice according to what the coach gives, the team is only effective as far as their own negligence could take them. God is the same way. We blame God sometimes for the temptations, but yet we have to remember temptations never come from God. God doesn't put the temptation in us. We have the temptation in us. We just blame God because we're weak to our own temptations. God says, I'm never the one who tempts you. Now, I will allow you to be tempted by your own doings, but I will always give you a way out of it, especially if I'm going to grow you and mold you and turn you to something bigger and greater. But I will never tempt you myself. God never tempts us. Our coach never tempts us. Why? Because at the end of the day, they want us to be successful. So they will never put things in our way to make us trip and fall. They never put things in our way to make us fall behind. And sometimes we say, God, why did this happen to me? Why am I addicted to this? Why can't I stop doing this? Why am I tempted? Why did this temptation come to me? It wasn't God. But God, he didn't put the temptation in front of you, but he will allow it to go in front of you from other means because he knows that you can make it through. And he will give you what you need so you can make it through. Because like I said, he's training you. He is molding you. He is growing you to go against these temptations, So when the temptation comes along, he's saying to you, okay, you know what? I didn't put this in front of you, but this is the real deal now. This isn't practice. This isn't training. I know you can do this because I've been molding you and growing you up to this point. It's the same thing in the sports. When a coach brings you to the main game, he says, this isn't practice. This isn't a drill. This is a real thing, but I believe you guys can do it. It's the same thing. God doesn't put temptations in front of us, but he knows that you can resist temptations and he gives you the tools to make it through. And he is always there. You know what I'm saying? He will always be there to provide you strength when you're weak. He will always be there to provide you wisdom when you don't have it. We just have to ask. That's what verse 5 says. It says, never in your wisdom, in your need of wisdom, ask our generous God and he will give it to you. He will never rebuke you for asking. He wants you to ask him. He wants you to turn to him. God wants you to depend on him. He wants you to lean on him. We always look at it as a sign of weakness, but in truth, it's a sign of strength because through that, we become stronger than who we were before we asked him for help, than who we were before we asked him for wisdom. It actually makes us stronger, not weak, to depend on God. And I'm going to finish off with verses 16 through 18. It says, so don't be misled, my dear brothers and sisters. Whatever is good and perfect is a gift coming down to us from God our Father, who created all the lights in the heaven. He never changes or casts a shifting shadow. He chose to give birth to us by giving us his true word. And we, out of all creations, became his prized possession. Listen, when a coach gets his team to the playoffs and they win, he is so proud. God is the same way. All he wants us to do is be proud of us on our journey, be proud of us on our end game. No matter how many times we stumble, no matter how many times we fall, he only wants to bring us joy because we are his prized possessions. We are his prized possessions. Nothing else in this world but us are his prized possessions. And so he wants the best for us. So no matter what's going on around you in your life, whether it's physical, mental, with your loved ones, friends, or family, just know God is always there behind you, supporting you. He's being your life coach. He's always pushing you. He's always training you. He's always putting you through practice, through drills, because he wants the best for you. Because you are his prized possession. So if you wonder why God is always on your back or around you 24/7, because that's how important you are to him. And there's nobody else that will be on you like that, like God is, because God makes sure that you're number one on his list. You are his prized possession. You are the MVP in his team. Every single one of us. You know what I'm saying? Like the verse says, the shepherd will leave the 99 to go save the one. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if there's only one over there. That one is just as important to him as a 99. You are the MVP on this team, on your team, on his team. So just remember that. So I just want to say, hope that you guys take these verses and I try to break them down. Hope you guys got something out of it. Hope you guys learned about faith and endurance. And then I pray that you guys have a great day. And also, I hope to see you guys today. I will be there for the movie night. And then, hopefully I can see you guys' faces. I haven't seen you guys in a while. And say hi. So again, have a blessed day. Have a great day. And I'll see you guys next week.